out of rhythm, a ghost movement essay. There is a kind of tiredness that does not come from effort or lack of sleep. It comes from being slightly out of rhythm for too long. You notice it after certain conversations. You walk away and nothing has gone wrong, but something has thinned. You are still yourself, but less present in yourself than you were before. At first, it is easy to ignore. Nothing bad happened. No one was unkind. The words were familiar, almost comforting in their predictability. And yet the body keeps a quiet account, a tightness in the chest that does not release, a dull pressure behind the eyes, a sense of effort that feels out of proportion to what just occurred. Often it begins with something small, a conversation that always turns the same way. You start by talking about something ordinary, the day, work, the weather, something you noticed. There is a brief opening, a moment where anything could follow. Then it arrives. The familiar turn, the same concern, the same frustration, the same looping story. You recognize it before it fully forms. Your body shifts, your attention narrows. You are already adjusting. In the ghost movement, this is understood as difference of rhythm rather than fault. People move through life at different speeds, with different emotional weight, different ways of holding what arrives. Some circle what hurts. Some speak from what has stalled. Some stay close to difficulty because it is familiar. Others move toward what is opening. None of this is wrong. But not all of it can be carried closely without cost. When rhythms do not align, the cost is rarely immediate. It accumulates. You soften yourself a little more each time. You listen longer than feels natural. You slow your responses. You hold back what feels too light, too quick, too alive, because it changes the atmosphere. You do not decide to do this. It happens quietly, through repetition. There are moments when you notice and push past it. You tell yourself this is what care looks like, that staying is a virtue, that leaving or pulling back would mean you are less generous than you once were. You remind yourself that everyone carries something. You reach out again even when something in you hesitates. You stay on the call longer than you want to. You nod, you reassure, you offer steadiness. Afterwards, you feel oddly empty, and you tell yourself that is normal. This is where contradiction lives. Part of you knows something is off. Another part insists you are overthinking it. You wonder if you have changed too much, if you have become less tolerant, less available, less able to sit with difficulty. You suspect yourself. You ask whether the problem is not the relationship, but your narrowing patience. You do not trust your own reading yet. Over time, the pattern becomes harder to ignore. You realize you are managing the space rather than inhabiting it. You are present, but alert, slightly ahead of the conversation, waiting for the turn you know will come, choosing words carefully so you do not deepen the loop or make it worse. You avoid certain parts of yourself, not because they are unwelcome, but because they pull the exchange into territory you do not want to enter again. Afterwards, the feeling is not pain. It is flattening. You are not distressed, but you are less available to whatever comes next. Your breath stays shallow. Your shoulders remain raised. The effort does not end when the conversation does. It lingers, as if your body has forgotten how to stand down. The mind moves quickly to make this acceptable. It offers explanations that sound like loyalty. This is just how they are. They have always been like this. They would do the same for me. These thoughts are not false, but they slowly turn loyalty into a reason to ignore what is happening in you. The movement does not ask whether someone deserves your presence. It asks what it costs you to keep offering it in the same way, and how long you have been paying that cost without naming it. Some relationships stabilize around an earlier version of you, a version who had more tolerance, more capacity, less clarity about what mattered. When you change, that version is the one that gets called forward. To stay connected, you step back into it. At first, it feels familiar, even reassuring. Then it starts to feel like wearing clothes that no longer fit. Nothing tears, but nothing sits right either. Letting that version go brings guilt. Not a sharp guilt, but a heavy one. A guilt that questions your character rather than your choices. You worry you are becoming cold. You worry you are abandoning someone who has done nothing wrong. You worry you are mistaking your own comfort for truth. This guilt does not respond to reassurance. It stays, pressing quietly, asking you to return to what was easier to explain. When noticing deepens, behavior changes before understanding does. You reply later. You shorten conversations. You stop offering solutions. You stop absorbing the weight. You do not announce these changes. You barely admit them to yourself. You watch what happens in your body when you do this. At first, it is not relief. It is uncertainty, a sense of standing in unfamiliar space without your usual role. Sometimes this is enough. The relationship finds a new shape, less intense, less demanding, more honest. Sometimes it is not. There are relationships where every interaction requires bracing, where the predictable turn arrives every time, where your natural tone cannot survive contact. In these moments, greater distance is not a failure of care. It is a refusal to keep erasing yourself to maintain a rhythm that no longer fits. Distance does not need explanation. It does not need certainty. It can be partial. It can change with time. What matters is that you stop treating your own flattening as acceptable collateral. The body notices before the mind is ready. The breath deepens. The shoulders drop. Attention returns, slowly. You realize how much effort it was taking to stay slightly out of sync, and how normal that effort had begun to feel. Difference does not need fixing. It needs honesty. And honesty does not always arrive as clarity. Sometimes it arrives as the end of pretending that you can keep paying a cost you can no longer afford. In the ghost movement, this is not framed as progress. It is framed as return, a return that does not announce itself, a return that simply stops leaking. Often, the most unsettling part is not the distance from others, but the moment you realize how long you stayed after you had already gone.